Let's all be in order. Please rise and pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Karen, will you please take roll call?
Donna is not here yet. Kevin?
I'm here.
Jason?
Here.
Jamie?
Present.
Clark?
Here.
And here.
All right, moving on to announcements. The next school board meeting will be on Monday, June 13th, here in the Lincoln Meeting Room at 7 p.m. Do we have any acknowledgements this evening?
Just a couple. I would like to acknowledge our staff. We've had a couple of staff members, Scott Tower and Sue Magnuson, that have gone through a little bit of some health situation, and I just want to, things are moving forward in both of those, but I also want to acknowledge our staff about how supportive and committed they are to those two staff members, and just, it's just a really good thing that they've been doing to be supportive, and so I'd like to acknowledge our staff. Also, just want to, and this can be a part of my report, but acknowledge our celebration day where we're going to be acknowledging lots of kids and their accomplishments coming up here on Friday. Looking forward to that particular day. And then finally, I'd like to acknowledge the class of 2016 because we are going to be graduating here in less than 2 weeks. Hard to believe.
Thanks, Chris. Moving on to public input relating to the agenda. Is there any public input relating to the agenda? Please introduce yourself and identify which agenda item you'd like to comment on, please.
Hi, I'm Bria Malone, teacher for social studies at the high school, and relating to, I didn't put the agenda with me, but level 3 grievance under new business. And I don't know what has been made aware of the board.
Well, we would bring you back up for that item.
Okay, you'd rather me speak then?
Yeah, since we have a true agenda item, that's where we would hear the grievance
Yeah.
at that
Okay.
time from Education Minnesota. So
I can do that.
if that's all right, we'll
All
bring
right,
you back later. Thank you. Okay, is there any other public input relating to the agenda? Okay, moving on, we do have a report and presentation this evening. We have a food service report with Katie and Bernie. Bernie is our food service director. And Katie, we're not all familiar with you, so if you could introduce yourself a little bit, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Katie Bizette. I am the district manager supporting Bernie here at Glencoe, and I have 9 accounts across the state of Minnesota, to a couple other states as well. So replaced John Durchie just a little over a year ago. So that's my main job. I'll let Bernie talk a little bit, give a little summer school update, and then I'll talk about a little year on year and some food service news state items.
Okay, we're just closing up, kind of getting ready for the end of the school year, but then we're going to gear up again for our summer school summer feeding. We are going to do a little scaled back version this year because of some of the construction. We're not going to have any meals at the high school this year, or we're not going to do the ball field outside like we did last summer. But we are still going to do Helen Baker, and then we're going to transport food up to Lakeside Elementary, like we did that last year also. But last year we sent it both to Helen Baker and Lakeside, but this year we're going to be preparing the meals at Helen Baker. And it's also going to be a shorter time period. We're only going to do it for 6 weeks that we're actually having Target Services and Migrant Program in session. Just with everything going on at all the schools with construction, we felt that it was better to just do it while there are actually kids in the district, or in the schools. We didn't have a great turnout for just walk-ins last year when there wasn't summer school or migrants in session, so we're gonna try it 1 year with just doing it while there's students in the buildings. Questions? Oh, okay, thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Bernie.
So a couple of weeks ago, we met with Michelle, and one of the things that we do annually, since the new rule is the price lunch equity calculator tool, that we take the information and, of course, by incorporating your paid lunch meal info, it tells us if we need to look at increasing meal prices for the next year. And in doing so, we are recommending a 10-cent increase for paid meals for both elementary, the secondary, and adult. A la carte milk and, of course, breakfast is universal free, so that will stay that way. It will just impact the paid lunch meal prices. So elementary will go up to $2.50, secondary will go up to $2.70, and I believe that will be an action item in June. So just making that recommendation based on filling out the tool for 16-17. There will be a new tool issued for 17-18, so it's something we'll still be doing next year. So, and then we're just going to talk a little bit year on year, year to date, where we're at. Bernie's done a really nice job of managing the program this year. There was a little bit of an added, there's an added site in St. Pius. We've got an enrollment there of 47 students, and outside of that, I think our enrollment is up 15 students overall that have access to the program. When we look at our paid meals daily, they're up about 10 meals per day, so that's great to see. Reduced is holding steady. It's $149 a day. It was $149 last year. Free is up a little bit, so that's great to see. We're looking at, we serve approximately 362 meals, free lunches per day, and adult meals are up just a touch. So that was, that was great to see. Bernie and I had a conversation about that. We talked about how sometimes it's just somebody coming into the district, and they really appreciate the program. So the actual a la carte counts are down just a touch overall, but at the high school, a la carte counts are up just a little bit. So overall, that includes Lakeside when we do there's extra entrees for some of the older students, the 5th graders and 6th graders. They have options to do that. So overall, our participation for the year, St. Pius is at 75, just over 75%. Helen Baker is running about 74% for lunch participation. Lakeside is just a touch over 71%, and the secondary, the 712 site is just over 66%. But again, like I said, that a la carte dollars per day is up a little bit, and we attribute that somewhat to the addition of Bernie added frozen yogurt, Annie's frozen yogurt this year. The students have the option to purchase that a la carte, but also just a lot of students purchase just the extra entree and possibly milk sometimes and don't get the fruit or vegetable that makes it qualify for a meal. So district-wide, our participation is just over 71%, which is just we're just a touch lower year on year. Last year we were at 72.4%, so just a little over 1% down overall for lunch participation. And then at Lakeside, this March, trying to encourage the kids at breakfast and increase participation there, Bernie did a yogurt parfait tasting table on the first Tuesday of the month, and then the ensuing Tuesdays, they did it as an offering, and it really proved quite popular for the students out there. At the secondary level, we've done like an Asian exhibition cooking station a couple of times. That's been pretty popular. Actually, at the school board meeting, a bunch of your student governments kids came up and talked to us, and we were doing an Asian chicken meal. And I saw that they were from Glencoe, and I said, "What do you think?" And they came back 2 and 3 times. And so I said, "I'm going to email Bernie right now and let her know that you liked this. Did you also like that we had a salad as well, a vegetable salad?" So I emailed Bernie and I said, "Here's the recipe numbers." But I said, this group of kids is wild about it. So she did menu it, right, the next month. And it did pretty well. So she said that the Asian bowls and those types of things are pretty popular with the kids. Of course, the cookouts, they did, the homecoming, next week will be the end of the year. Irish stew was proved pretty popular at St. Patrick's Day. And Bernie had a pretty entertaining comment. What did the student just wasn't, he's like, wow.
They just said, school lunch has this like, oh, school lunch,
But it was
He said, I don't really want to say this, but this looks really good.
So, but she said that it went over really big with the kids. So that's really great to see that, those from scratch cooking items, are definitely, the kids are giving them a try. So build your own burger, and then of course, again, in accessing the student feedback, a community lunch had homemade chicken noodle soup on it. We normally do tomato soup with our grilled cheese sandwich. The kids told Bernie how much that they liked the homemade chicken noodle soup on community lunch. And so the next time we served grilled cheese, we switched up the tomato soup with the chicken noodle, and it was a really big hit. So, really trying to kind of, solicit the students' feedback to improve the program or have them, see the types of choices that they want to see. Food focuses this year. We've done a couple of kohlrabi this year, and probably the most popular one was the citrus, and she did clementines. And the kids really love those little tiny handheld fruits. And our big focus next year, most costs are in line. Bernie is working closely on the new build project, but it's probably really just focusing on, we've got a couple of individuals retiring, so we're looking at getting some great new team members to help us run the program and engage the kids. And then we're gonna put a focus on breakfast participation and trying to get that up a little bit across all sites. So, any questions? Anyone?
Just wondering about how has the FFA and their garden program been in conjunction or working with you and you with them with regard to any of the things that they've been producing? Has that been something that's been able to be incorporated, or because of regulations has it not been able to be?
That's a great question, Jamie. It can't be incorporated into the National School Lunch Program, but we do tasting tables, and Bernie can speak to that a little bit, some of the options.
And it all depends, like last summer, last year, it was so wet, and so, it all depends on what we get. But I've worked a lot with Becky, and she tells me, asks me what we can use in the school lunch. The first year they experimented with everything, so things that I didn't even know what they were. And so we, that was hard to incorporate all of those. But I mean, this year we had, she has a lot of lettuce. Most of the stuff that she grows, we use on our salad bar at the high school. The peppers and onions and the different kinds of lettuces. But it all depends on how the garden grows, basically. Fresh salsa? Oh yeah, we did make fresh salsa. Yep, we did, with the peppers and the tomatoes and the onions.
Wasn't there a salad? One time there was a salad, the whole salad was all from the garden, which was very good.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that a lot. One other question that I had was, you mentioned that a recommendation is going to be coming in June for a 10-cent increase on student lunches. That 10-cent increase recommendation, can you tell us a little bit more about what that does to the bottom line, how 10 cents was arrived at versus 7 versus 15 cents? You mentioned something about a toolbar or something like that. Can you just briefly explain that a little bit more, how that recommendation is coming about?
Absolutely, Jamie. What happens is we take the tool that was put out by the USDA. We put in the number of paid lunches for the month of October by category, and then it does a weighted average across a couple of years. So we've got the 2010-11, we've got it pulls the 14-15, and then we've got the 15-16. And it calculates and it shows if you need to increase your prices. And the purpose of it is to make sure that that the free and reduced lunches are not subsidizing the paid. And so when we put your information in, it shows a 10-cent increase for the next year. So.
And has that been pretty true with regard to feeding it into that toolbar in the past? Has that kind of come to reality as far as accuracy, if you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely, it has, and really the reason that Glencoe has had to take a 10-cent increase over the last several years is there was, kind of a difference between your elementary and your secondary level pricing, and part of that's due to the level of program that's offered. So, but it's I want to say 240 and 240 and 260 this year. There's 20% gap there. So that's why it is. I would anticipate that for 17, 18 that there will probably, it's possible we might be okay with the nickel, but I think more likely it'll be another dime.
One last question.
Yes.
One last question. How does that relate to, and I know every district's kind of unique and stuff because of the formula, but how does that sort of compare to other schools that are our size that you work with, if that's a fair question?
Yes, most of my districts have to take a nickel to a dime increase for this year. There's one or two that are okay to take a nickel. So, but most people are taking anywhere from a nickel to a dime to get to where they need to be. So you're right in the realm of everybody else.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
So Katie, with us having a 71% overall participation rate for lunch, do we have a target that we're trying to get to, or where are we at compared to other districts that you have?
We're in good shape here, definitely. We would like to see, in talking with Bernie, we would definitely like to see, it's like for our free and reduced students, both breakfast and lunch are free. There's really no reason that a benefited student shouldn't be eating with us unless they're not here, unless they're not on site. And looking at our numbers, we're not capturing 100%. In fact, I want to say it was 82 to 85%. I want to say 85% of our free students are eating with us, about 82% of our reduced kids are eating with us. So we're going to go back and look at that and make sure, but we definitely want to capture those students and find out why they're not eating with us and have a conversation with them if at all possible. And then we'd like to see the participation go up secondary at 66%, I think that's really good for meal participation. And the other thing that I think is not unique to Glencoe, but your student population does a wonderful job. They really take advantage of the full meal deal. And you have the unlimited fruit and vegetable bar here, and the kids really augment their entree and whatever the grain component is with filling up on fruits and vegetables, which is really nice to see because that's the whole purpose of that. But we would like to see the meal participation overall increase a little bit at all three levels. I mean, I'd like to see us be a little closer to 80% for Lakeside and Helen Baker, if at all possible. And again, let's focus first on those benefit students, see why they may not be eating with us, but also look at our paid participation too. And that's kind of the purpose of the promos that you'll see us, like I mentioned that we ran at Lakeside, is trying to engage the students and seeing if we can get the participation up. But you're right in line with other districts. I'd just like to see it a couple % higher. So.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, well, thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you for having us.
We'll move on to reports. And Ms. Sander does have a business manager report for us this evening.
And I have a little presentation that I put together for you. As soon as it warms up here, you can do whatever you want. While that's warming up, just wanted to mention bid package 2 for the building project is now out. We're having our pre-bid meeting this week, May 12th, so we'll have all possible contractors in here that would be interested in doing that. And then bids for that are due May 24th. And I haven't looked at it, I showed it to Jason and Jamie earlier. The specs and the plans for that are in my office if you're interested. And it's a lot of reading, so if you want to look at it, it is available. But, so we'll get through that next round of bid package 2. On your agenda item tonight, we've got that one scope that we had rebid, so we've got that. We'll talk about that a little later on the agenda item. We'll cover that, and then I think my other couple things are on the agenda, so I'll wait with that. What I did is put together a little presentation. As you know, the last couple months we've been talking about adding the STEM positions, which has raised questions regarding fund balance, budget, staffing, enrollment, building projects. You know, you've all kind of contacted me with different questions, and I thought it might be nice to put it up visually so we can take a look at it, pull all the data together in one place, and then hopefully kind of answer all those questions that some of you have had. I haven't done this for a while, so maybe, you know, it's my fault that I should have pulled this together sooner as we're talking some of this, but, you know, we always go through a lot of facility information, a lot of budget information at our meetings, so we'll just kind of pull it all together and take a look at things that we've been talking about the last couple months. The first slide here is just our revised budget. This is the revisions that we approved last month, or you as a board approved last month, regarding the current year budget. Now on your agenda tonight, you will see one more revision to our Fund 4, our community service. We have a couple things that came in as changes from our directors, so we'll just approve them later on, nothing drastic in there. So this is the budget that we looked at last month. This is just taking a look at our preliminary budget for 16-17, still in the process of working on that budget. I'll back up back up to the current year budget. I just wanted to mention, if this budget comes through like we've currently got it set up, we're looking at ending the year at about a 27% fund balance. And that's kind of where this is all leading, is to fund balance policy, what we can afford, where things are at. Last year we ended the year at about a 29% fund balance, so we were down about 2%. So we have 2 months yet to get through here to see where things end up and where they play out. But if we end up where these budget numbers are saying, we should be right about at that 27%. So jumping ahead then, looking at preliminary budget. Again, like I said, it's preliminary. We're still working on numbers. I've met with our Fund 4 people, our staffing, our food service budget is pretty much in there, locked in. Building construction, debt service, those are kind of, you know, to be determined where those things come in, as well as the scholarship is always an unknown as far as what's paying out of that. So we're continuing to work on the general fund. I've met with the principals, administration, activities director, trying to pull in all their numbers. We've imported them, and now I've given them back to them for final review, as well as looking at project and staffing. We've pretty much got our staffing all in place, made adjustments for those contracts that haven't been completed yet, and dropped in some of those numbers as close as we can where we're at right now on staffing and FTEs and supplies and those type of things. So again, preliminary, but at this budget, if we would jump ahead to June 30th of 17, we would be at about probably a 24% fund balance. So again, another drop, because we know we've been deficit spending. Now in this general fund budget, we've also got a lot of facility type things that I'll cover in a couple slides here. So just keep that in mind. A lot of that general fund is where our facility projects, not the building construction, but some of our other things that I'll cover. I don't have a slide for it, but then taking it one step farther, Jamie and Kevin that are on Finance Committee know that I do as many years out as we can right now, 2 or 3 years. So going one more year beyond this, if this fund balance would end at the 24%, right now the 17-18 budget is at a 20%, right at fund balance. I think at the work session it was right about at 19%, and now it's right at 20%. Again, that could change, you know, either way, 1% or 2%. Last year I think we had estimated I had estimated that we'd go down to probably about a 27, 28, and we ended at the 29. So always pretty close, but it does change a little bit as we get our final audited numbers in. So that's kind of briefly looking at the budget. And let's just jump into enrollment numbers. Now I know you get your updates as far as what our enrollment numbers have been doing this year, and we've talked about this in the past. When you look at your EC numbers, keep in mind, we average about 24 in that program, sometimes up to 30, sometimes up to 40, depending on the needs of those students. But they don't equate one full FTE for funding. They're scaled back because they're only serviced by minutes or hours, so they end up less than a full-time FTE. So usually when it's all said and done at the end of the year, that equates to about 10 full-time equivalent students. So without the EC numbers, we keep, it's been pretty steady at about that 1,576, 575, but it has been higher. Last fall it was higher, so we'll get additional revenue for the students that were here in the fall that aren't here now, because it's all based on their weighted time that they were here. So now as we jump ahead, and I'm just looking here at the elementary for next year, 16, 17, because that's where we really focus on how many sections that we can have at the elementary. We know that the high school is different because of the schedule that they run, and they don't run in sections. We look at more programming in the student-driven schedule at the high school. So this is just looking ahead at 16, 17 based on our current numbers that we have and progressing them ahead a year. Kindergarten, we don't know. That's our unknown yet, really, as we continue to get registrations for that, and we usually know that from first day of school or the second week of school. So we'll see where those numbers, but it's been historically, we come in at that 100, sometimes a little more than 100. For budgeting purposes, I always drop in that $100 mark. Now you'll see in red there, as you look at the second grade and the third grade, those are the couple of sections that we've been watching. And we'll continue to watch. Those numbers are low, 107 and 105. Currently have, suggesting that we have 5 sections in K through 6 all of next year for a total of 35 FTEs for just the classrooms. This doesn't count any of your support staff, counselors, and psychologists and those special ed staff. This would be strictly your classroom teachers. So if we do the progression for the next couple of years, 17 and 18, you can kind of see we've just progressed the numbers down. Again, estimating kindergarten at 100. And then you can see because of that unknown number, I've just got the 100 in the first grade, and then the second year 100 in the first and second grade until we know what those numbers are. There again, you can see in red where I've got those small sections. Now it's kind of been, always a debatable topic as to what is the proper size class numbers. That's an ongoing, and it's not unique to Glencoe. That's statewide. What is that ideal number? I think we all know and can all agree that everybody would love to have a classroom of 15 kids. You can just accomplish a lot. Reality, we know that is not true. We just can't afford to do that. So when we start seeing numbers at 105, 107, we need to really start taking a close look at, can that be dropped to 4 sections? And I think with the administration and you as a board, we've talked a number of times about at what grade, what age level do you drop that section? I think we've agreed that K through 3 grade is, our real primary grade, and you can do the best you can, and that's where your learning development money is even targeted for, is starting at your smaller grades to keep those grade numbers, your student-staff ratio as low as you can. Especially at 3rd grade, even though they're up at Lakeside, 3rd grade's a level where you're really introducing a lot of new things at that level. Besides moving to a different building, there's a lot of things that are curriculum-wise that are introduced, and Joy and Bill could address that more. So, just looking at numbers for 17, 18, you could look at that 4th grade and make that 4 sections, if that number stays at that or if it drops. So that could potentially be an adjustment that could be made. And then at the 18, 19 school year, you could possibly look at the 4th and 5th grade. So you can see this is something that we always monitor, that we always watch. So as I look at these numbers, I'm asking the question saying, is now a time to drop a section? What can we do? We also look at the number of students in those classes and their needs. Are their high enough needs that they're pull-out students for a majority of the day, or are they high needs that stay in the classroom that needs extra support, but they need to be mainstream? So there's a lot more that goes into just saying, let's reduce a section. We have to really look and identify the students that are in those different grade levels. So then as we look at FTEs and enrollment, And I know this was brought up in the past, as a budget concern. And I only went back here to FY13, so you can kind of see where the FTEs are, and I'm not going to read through them all, and then the enrollment. And I think you can really see how stable we've been in our FTEs. Now, this FTE number does include special ed staff. This is any licensed teacher, so it's including your counselors, psychologists, licensed special ed staff. And so you can see, like in the elementary, we've made a couple increases. We've added some special ed positions. We've added counseling. Years ago we started off with that half-time counselor at the elementary, and then we made that a full-time position. Farther back than this, I can't remember exactly what year, we added the junior high counselor. When I came, there was one counselor for the district. So the progress we've made has been huge. We added the additional elementary psychologist this past year. So those FTEs are reflecting those support specialists. So you can go back and look at, the elementary classes. Those sections have not changed. A few years back, we did have 6 sections of kindergarten when we had that high couple grades that went through there. But now we've pretty much been 5 sections for the last 9 years that I've been here. So we haven't made any changes in those sections except for the kindergarten. And we did have, I think Jamie had brought this up, and if you look back in the budget book, and I have it here if you want me to pull it up, at the numbers, and back in 05-06, the total district enrollment was 1,642 with 121 FTEs. The year before that, the enrollment was a little higher, and they were at 112. I don't know what happened in that year. I wasn't here. I haven't done enough research to know if that was additional support staff brought on, if it was extra classrooms, as far as what exactly happened. Then in the 06-07 school year, enrollment was about the same, and then that's when huge reductions were made, and the FTEs dropped back down to 106. So since I've been here, that is something that we monitor really closely, and it does get difficult. We know enrollment drops, but when it drops at 15 or 20, but it's K-12, it's really, really hard to find where that reduction is and to keep your classroom, your class sizes balanced. So I know that's been a concern that we've talked about. So here's the data that shows where we've been at the last couple years. Again, this includes those extra positions, basically those support positions that we've brought in regarding counselor and psychologist people. And I just pulled in here the goals, the district administrative goals, and some of this ties in with your board goals. And I'm not going to go through these, but I wanted to put them out there just as kind of a reminder of the things that we've worked hard on, that we've put in place, that we've implemented, our different plans that we have to have as a district literacy plan, and our school improvement plan, and the staff development plan, and the technology plan. But just a lot of improvements that we've made to our programming, to our teaching, our staff development, the OVAS programming, the PBIS programming. We've done a lot more with our Hispanic outreach program, our facilities plans that we've got. This year we've got the first official PTO program that has started at our elementary, and that has been a long-term goal as far as getting more parent-teacher, parent-student involvement. The RTI advisory group has also been put in place. And then one of our other plans is the World's Best Workforce Plan, and this is one where Chris works really hard on with community members that are part of that committee that works on this. And that, again, some of the goals cross over with each other. Again, one of those big ones was promoting that positive parent-community relationships, and that's where that PTO starting has really been it's starting small, but the goal is to have that continue to grow, and they've already done a couple fun activities. Maintaining our fund balance policy, maintaining fiscal responsibility is always my top goal. And then the student-centered school for all, college or high school graduation rates is something that they worked really hard at the high school level, and then those achievement gaps that we get with our test scores. So not a lot of more detail unless you have questions on those. So what we've been talking about the last couple months is program changes for the next school year. And what we've really wanted to pursue is the full implementation of a K-12 Project Lead the Way STEM program. And this would include 2 full-time equivalents for grades K through 5 to provide 2 leader teachers for students and staff support. Grade 6 would have the Gateway program that ties in with the 7th and 8th grades, and then to continue the Project Lead the Way at grades 9 through 12. So you know this has kind of been started from the top down with the implementation at our 9-12 grades with all the engineering classes, Project Lead the Way's classes that have been happening at the high school. And this past year then doing some of those activities at the grades 7th and 8th. So I think you've gotten all the information you probably need regarding the STEM, and you can have more questions on that as it gets to your agenda item if you have more. So that is really the goal that the administration would like to pursue, is to have the 2 full-time FTEs. So one question that I was asked is, what have we been using our fund balance? We've been deficit spending, we know that, and so where has it been going? So just to refresh, some of the things, I've kind of just gone back 4 years, and a couple of these did start earlier than that, but I've kind of done programming and staffing. I've lumped some things together there. We have our RTI program, our PBIS program, and I know a lot of acronyms here, but our ICU program, and then the STEM, the high school engineering program. Our professional learning communities for the staff. We've brought back elementary music, 5th grade band, Lakeside choir, our elementary counseling psychologist position, the junior high counselor, and our special ed case facilitators. We've also we've always had a credit recovery program, but we've now made that with an unlimited license so that kids are able to access that all year instead of just in the summer. Technology implementation has been huge. We've kind of implemented our technology as a pay-as-we-go. A lot of districts across the state, they have done lease programs, they've done, financing through different, like directly through Apple or other financial institutions to get the money up front to completely do a one-on-one initiative. A lot of districts have a technology levy. We haven't pursued any of that. We have been buying as we can afford it according to our budget. We work it into our technology plan. We're limited on our tech guys, which do a great job, but technology implementation has been huge over the last years. When I came 9 years ago, we had 1 interactive board in the district. And we're now up to, I don't know what's the number, Mike, just about every classroom in our district. We've got a couple more on our list. I mean, we've already started the process of replacing some of those now that are getting old. So we've just made huge improvements. We're over 500 iPads. Between mostly our elementary. We added the ThinkPads at junior high, and last year we started with 60 surfaces at the high school. So next year's budget includes additional iPads for Lakeside, and that means we'll move some more iPads down to Helen Baker. And we're adding more surfaces at the high school. Probably another 60 surfaces will be added to the high school area. And we'll be purchasing new computers for our STEM lab at the high school. So that technology has all used up some of our fund balance. Negotiations, that always comes out of our fund balance and where we're at. And then of course the other big part is related to our facilities and grounds, as far as where the money has been spent. You're well aware of most of the large projects that we've done, so I'm not going to read all of these. We did the field house floor, we've done windows, we've done a lot of work out at the grounds, the practice fields. We built an early childhood learning center. We did, work to our Lincoln parking lot. We redid our tennis courts. We redid our track, our additional parking lot at our early childhood learning center and the playground, field house roof. We've got a lot of boiler maintenance repair on here. If you kind of look through the list later on, you'll see how much we've spent in boiler repairs at Lincoln and at the high school. That will now come to an end. The boilers are getting shut off in these 2 buildings tomorrow, forever. They will be cut out. They will be cut out and replaced. So the goal is to have no more boiler repairs for a number of years at these 2 buildings. we know there's gonna be some maintenance issues, but eliminating all the boiler work at Helen Baker and some of those type of things. So I didn't include all the maintenance things that we've done because we know there's gonna be maintenance things that continue to happen. Helen Baker maintenance, that's done. No more of that building, as long as we can hold it together one more year. We've done tuck pointing at the high school, at Lincoln, the tuck pointing at Lakeside, and I know, Kevin, you had somebody ask you about that building. That was completed last week. They were able to get, the contractor was able to get in here, and the last 2 weeks has finished that. I know it was a little noisy up there for staff, but this was the only chance we had to get that done this year. So that's been completed, which is nice, because that'll be done, and now before they start on the window project. We remodeled our Lakeside Special Ed room, and we started on our hallway tile project at the high school. So what I didn't add on here is some things that we'll be doing this summer. I had a meeting earlier with Jason and Jamie, and we reviewed our facilities plans and some of our projects. We're going to be continuing our high school hallway tile project at about $56,000. Well, I guess I have that one on here, $50,000. We're going to be doing some asbestos abatement when they cut those boilers out. We do have some abatement that has to happen with those boilers, so that's about $26,000. The high school windows and door project is going to cost us $250,000. And then the sprinkler system, part of that's worked into the building project, and we have to see where those bids come in and where we're at, or if it's going to cost us a little bit more. Without the summer's project, that totals close to $2.9 million that we have spent in facilities. All, I feel, very well planned out. We've had a good plan over the last several years as far as when we've been addressing those projects, when we've done those projects, and we've made sure that they have fallen into our operating capital or our maintenance budgets. So I think, thanks to Jamie and Jason working on that committee and really helping outline and prioritizing what needed to be done, I think we have laid them out very well and accomplished quite a bit on our facilities, because as you remember, nothing had been done for a number of years. When you didn't have a fund balance, operating capital at that time was used to cover other things, so there just wasn't money at that time for those repairs. So it takes a while to build up those fund balance and operating capital to be taking care of some of these things. So then the next question is, how do we meet the challenge of maintaining that fund balance policy that we have in place of the 20%? So what we're looking at, if you move whatever your decision is tonight, the 2 STEM FTEs, right now I've got half of that cost budgeted to our staff development. In listening to the administrators talk about that position and studying the Project Lead the Way, there's a lot of staff training that goes on with those positions. A lot of staff training, a lot of training of that lead teacher to then train the teachers and then work with the students. So looking at an additional $100,000 to the budget, because the staff development piece is already a portion of the budget. We have for this next year a retirement, and the new person has been hired. Normally we don't like to bank our savings on retirements because we just never know who that position is going to be filled by and what cost that staff member comes in at. This situation, we do have an absolute savings of $39,000. So that is now reflected into the budget. We're looking at then what would be our possible reductions to maintain that fund balance over the next few years. We always look very closely, as close as we can, and Mr. Sparby can attest to this, when it comes to overloads at the high school level. That's something we usually don't know until we get into the start of the school year and where those students' registrations fall. Our goal at this point, other than some adaptive FIAD that we aren't hopefully looking at too many, but again, we don't like to bank too much on that because we don't know that unknown. Another retirement, again, that could be $15,000, it could be zero, it could be another $39,000, depending on who is hired for that position. So then as we start to go down there, you have to be really, really careful when you start putting together lists, when you start talking about budget reductions, where can we save some money, because you don't want to identify anything that you can't follow through with. But if you want to say, what can we do? What can we look at if that fund balance starts to drop faster than we want it? Where can we control some of those costs? Well, the first thing that I've penciled in is facilities. With the building project done, with those old boilers gone, I think we can see a lot of changes or a lot of savings in our facilities. And we can say, we're not going to do this next project if we don't have to. So I just dropped in, $100,000 possible savings in our facility costs. Along with the facilities is, and you've heard me talk about it already before, is long-term facilities maintenance revenue. That's the new money that the legislators approved for all districts in the state and not just the metro schools. And it does increase the revenue that will be coming into districts that you're able to use on your facilities. It kind of falls in the same line of whatever you spent your deferred maintenance dollars in the past, you can now spend this money on. Which what that does, because we'll have a bigger pocket of money that's a reserved category, it frees up your operating capital dollars that can be used for something else. So if you look on the bottom there, I've got reclassify OpCap, which is operating capital. You can then start to use your operating capital for example, technology salaries. In the past, that was where districts usually paid for technology salaries, was out of operating capital money. So you can start to do some of those shifts because we're going to have a bigger reserve in our long-term facility maintenance, which again frees up operating capital. You could look at that class size, which I mentioned. That could be a possibility for a couple of years out from now. Technology, we could all of a sudden say, okay, we've gone as far as we can this year. We have to pull back on our technology budget. We've currently, the last couple of years, spent close to $200,000 on our technology budget as far as new devices. A lot of that has been infrastructure, servers, access points, that kind of thing, but also in the devices in our labs that we upgrade. So you can easily back off on that. It's not, we don't want to stop and slow down too bad because technology keeps changing, but it is an area that you could look at. A few other areas that we would address or could address would be building budgets. We could say we need to hold back on our building budgets, classroom budgets, building budgets, and we could get by with doing that. If we also needed to, we could stop a year and not replace a vehicle. The last couple of years, we've had to replace a vehicle each year. And we could say, no, this isn't the year we're going to replace a vehicle. And then again, for the 18-19 school year, you could look at another class size reduction if we needed to, or if it got to that point. And maybe you'll have, enrollments go up, and that's that unknown. And also, you got to remember that the non-publics affect the enrollment as it goes into the high school. So those things are unknowns kind of to us and things that we can't control. So I think there's a number of ways that we can maintain that 20% or get to that 20%. So our additional and ongoing needs, of course, I mentioned it is the new building, the long-term facilities maintenance projects. Some of the things that we've got on our list as far as our facilities committee that we are working on and need to keep on the radar is, as you know, we've started the hallway tile replacement project at the high school. We want to continue, or we are continuing on that, but either within the next couple of years we want to start on the Lincoln building. So as we're up getting the high school that facelift, we want to give this Lincoln building that same facelift because not all of that is included in the remodel part of the project. So we want to have all our buildings now that are connected, tie together with kind of the same look in the tiles. So we've got, a quote on starting what that project would take. So again, all this hallway tile would be gone. So we've got that project on the radar. The high school parking lots will definitely reach the top of the priority list. As you know, that's not in good shape, and we're going to be doing that. And now we said with the construction and all the traffic and the equipment back there, we're just going to wait till our project is done and then look at that new parking lot that back there. We're always looking at access to our athletic complex that we keep trying to address. And then you have to keep on the radar, if that Helen Baker building does not sell, what do we do with it? Do we look at demolition of that building? That's a very real thing that we have to have money for. What that would cost, we'd have to get estimates and move forward at that time. But that's a couple of years down the road, but we do have to keep that on the radar. And then technology upgrades. Either we, make that cut or reduction, or we continue to move forward on our upgrades. We've talked about the bring your own device, that we're keeping moving forward to at the high school level, and just continuing to try to stay, you can't stay ahead of technology, but you try to stay as close as you can to updated technology and meeting the students' needs that tie in also with our curriculum. And that's, I didn't talk a lot about curriculum in here. We've are looking at some new science curriculum for next year, but curriculum is kind of changing fast to meet the standards and keeping up with the technology. So, I instruct the administrators to really look closely at curriculum, and there's more and more that's happening online, so how much curriculum, what direction is it going to go? So we look at that curriculum piece really closely. And then a few other areas continue on our staff development, the teacher evaluation piece that's come into play with our professional learning communities, activity fees, lunch fees, you heard Bernie and Katie talk about that. And then the custodial needs as we look ahead, our Lakeside building, custodial needs, and then also when we get to the new building. So we're working on that with Dasher and how would that staffing look. Some of those things, we know it's a good year and a half out, but we need to start looking at that now. What's that going to cost versus where our savings are and the changes in square footage. So all those things on the list and on the radar to keep looking at and addressing. So, with that pile of information, do you have any questions on any particular side or something I didn't cover, or you have more questions on?
All right, thanks, Michelle. Appreciate you putting that together. Very helpful. Moving on to the principal reports, we have Mr. Butler and Mrs. Freitag.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you. Michelle just concluded with PLCs, and with our PLCs at the elementary, we're scheduling and clearing out our end-of-year data meetings, teams looking at their SMART goals and reflecting on those and what they show about kids learning and their instruction this year. Our instructional leadership teams at both sites have planned summer work sessions where we'll go through a needs assessment to look at what areas we want to target for our school improvement plans next year. I will jump down to the very bottom under state and federal programs where we're waiting for our Title I allocation in May. We look to get a final allocation by the end of this month, and then we can plan on how that money will be used to support our students. Special education, we had a representative from NDE who comes out every 6 years, did a 427 on-site visit. She was looking for things like equity, equal access for kids who have IEPs. So we expect a report by the end of June from the Department of Ed. I'll go to the back, some school community partnership events. We've got a Panther Pride picnic coming up tomorrow. I know both Joy and I were just overly pleased that the rain will result in cancellation of the dunk tank. Grade 2 concert on the 12th. Would like to acknowledge Katie Miller for her efforts there, and of course the Panther Art Prow will be held concurrently. And then one of my favorite events, our kindergarten team has started a kindergarten graduation, and that event is just filled with so much joy, and it's just a great event. Looking forward to that on the 20th, the last day of school. One more acknowledgement, the folks at Panther Point Nutrition, and I think this was headed up by Mrs. Amy Lemke, did their walk around Helen Baker and just cleaned up the perimeter for us on April 18th. So we really appreciate their efforts. Any questions or comments? Great, thank you.
Good evening. So I am going to start at the top under academics. We are meeting with our literacy and our math committees over the summer. We have a day of planning planned right away in June that both committees are very excited to kind of dig in and relook at their 5-year plan and their goals to see where we need to go and where we've been and where our learning will take us. skip down a couple into solution-focused teams. We meet every other week at Helen Baker and at Lakeside, going back and forth. It's a very fluid team gathering where we talk about students who have particular academic or behavior needs, where we assess their interventions that they're currently in. We look at how well they're doing. We look at the fidelity checks that people are implementing on them, and then make a plan for future growth, whether they stay on the solution-focused team, if they go to the special ed team, which is called SEAT. It's very effective. Been very positive for our students and for our staff. Then going on to curriculum and assessment update. As I was saying, the literacy team and the math team, we have our workshop day planned in the summer. The spring benchmarking window has just closed, which is what we do 3 times a year to measure the growth of students. The MCA, reading and math, is done. done, and we are thrilled. And then science will conclude this week as well. I want to thank everyone who helped us with that. It was a very big project, and Mr. Svoboda, who is not here, does an excellent job of organizing that for all of our schools and all of our students. It's a big task to be in charge of in a short amount of time. Skipping then to the back side, grade 2 came over to Lakeside, and we were able to meet with them and have a tour of Lakeside. They got to eat lunch with us. They were thrilled. It was really interesting to watch the little second graders, first of all, figure out how to put their tray down and pull the silverware out on their own. And then that ranch bottle just befuddled them. They didn't know how to they didn't know if they pushed in the back of the spout or in the front. It was fun to watch. And they figured it out very quickly. They were so excited. They got to meet all of their teachers and the view of the lake. They are pumped that they can get that view. So. Grades 5 and 6 band concert was last week on Cinco de Mayo. They did a wonderful job. Both the band and the choir are very talented musicians and very talented directors of both. And then our field day is coming up on Friday. Right after the celebration, the students from Lakeside will go out to the field out behind the high school, and then we're going to do a bunch of fun activities with our students, depending on the weather. So hopefully it gets really nice. And I'm okay with it raining tomorrow night because I didn't want to do that. But on Friday, I'd love for it to be sunny. All school meetings then we have at Helen Baker and Lakeside. We'll conclude at Lakeside on May 19th and Helen Baker on May 17th. Ours at Lakeside will be in the afternoon, and it will be when all the students will be given their awards for different things like science fair, spelling bee, geography bee. And then we will have 6th grade graduation on the morning of May 20th. And just as Mr. Butler was saying, the kindergarten graduation is a fabulous event. So is a 6th grade event. They have already become 7th graders in many ways, but we still get to send them off in a positive way. And the parents come in and get to celebrate with them as well. And then Carrie Canott, who organized the band and the choir concert, along with Lauren Greeley. As I was saying before, the concert was really wonderful. It wasn't too hot in the gym just yet. It was a fabulous night. Any questions for me?
Joy, now that the MCAs are completed on the use of technology, iPads or laptops or computers, are the results already instantaneous, or are they embargoed by the state? Or how about the MCA results as far as when they're shared out?
We have the MCA results immediately. In the past, Pearson was doing it so that teachers could access the site. They intended to do that this year as well, but they were only able to get it for the administration. So what we do is we share our results immediately for all of the regular ed students that are taking it on the data spreadsheet that is kind of housed on our shared drive so that the teachers have access to it immediately. Some teachers are choosing to share that information with parents or with the students. It's kind of up to them how they go about choosing to do that, knowing that this is not a final score, that score can adjust for what the state, kind of how they grade and they score and if they look at it. Special ed students who have paper tests, I input those, as does Mr. Svoboda for the high school for 712, and then those are also immediate results. For students who are taking the MTOS, that is not an immediate result. That is not going to be given until, I don't know if the fall. I'm not sure exactly. That answer your question?
Yep, when are those results shared with us as a board?
Oh, they can be shared with you. I would prefer to do it after we have the MTOS, but we can share, see, they're not embargoed as far as the official, because they're not official scores. But we would certainly be able to pull them together. What's nice is that we were able to use them immediately, whereas in the past, we wouldn't know them until the students had moved beyond, and you know that. Yeah, that's why it's fabulous to be able to know them. And the students, when we had Mary Jenachek come in from the state, she kind of taught us how to use that data and to make sure that we were looking at the growth goals for students. And so we have kind of put it in place that the students know what a growth goal would be for them, what's a positive growth, and then many of them, they want to see that score because it's, yay, because it's awesome. And we also plan some celebrations around how hard they're working on their MCAs and met that growth goal.
And the reason that I ask is, as you mentioned with the literacy and the math workshop and work days and stuff coming up in June, having those pieces of data are so, like you mentioned, important and nice to have, because they can really lead to some rich discussions, and with regard to the curriculum and assessment in those areas, very, very valuable. So that's why I asked the question, so thank you.
Yeah, we use our benchmarking data then that we do 3 years, and we look at all the formative and summative assessments as well. So our PLCs really, it goes back to that whole structure of PLCs, RTI, everything. It's wonderful how it comes together, kind of a wonderful crash.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Mr. Sparby.
Good evening. This is an extremely busy time of year at the junior high and high school, with all the activities and the school year coming to a close and the activities being wrapped up. Our BPA kids returned this morning from a trip to Boston for the National BPA. Our super mileage kids are up in Brainerd right now, competing. We had our senior banquet last night, so Mr. Sundblad took the majority of the team up last night. Mr. Sabota took the seniors after the senior banquet last night. Mr. Sundblad had texted me and said he was, the younger kids really stepped up because they had to do inspection, and all of our cars got through inspection. He said one car had to go back to have some tweaking done on the braking system, but the younger kids really did a nice job in getting everything approved and through for inspection. Last year, Martin Mollick set a school record with the modified car. He went 456 miles per gallon. And this is not on your form because this was after that went to print, but Mr. Sundblad had emailed me, and Martin reset his record to 617 miles per gallon. So it's 161 miles per gallon jump he got on that car. So they were pretty excited. As you can see with all the activities going on, there's concerts tomorrow night, there's a concert on Friday night, there's another concert the following Monday. You can see all the concerts we have over the next week. We have the Panther Art Crawl going on here on Thursday evening, along with one of the elementary concerts. Tomorrow afternoon, the 6th grade is coming over to do their transition tour and their meetings, so they can get acclimated to the junior high and the high school. We have our last day for seniors on May 18th, and then for our other students on the 20th. We have graduation the night of the 20th. So once again, if any of the board members would like to invite all of you to participate, obviously, and come to graduation, but if somebody would be willing to help with the diplomas, as in the past, if you let Mr. Sanju know, I would like to have a couple of you on stage to help pass out diplomas during graduation. A couple of groups that I wanted to acknowledge, and I won't read off all the names, but we have the members that were on our grading committee and our Albeas training committees, and then the high school leadership team, the junior high leadership team. Without these staff members stepping up and getting involved and being a part of these teams, we'd be in a world of hurt. So I wanted to acknowledge all of them because these staff members set aside time and make an effort to be a part of these committees to try and make GSL great. So I did want to recognize all of them and listed all of their names there so you can see who was a part of those. Our Knowledge Bowl team went up to Brainerd. We took 2 teams to Brainerd. One team placed 2nd and one team placed 6th. And according to Mrs. Harris, this is only the 3rd time ever that 2 teams have placed in the top 6. And that's pretty awesome that we had 2 teams in the top 6 And our team that came in second, I know they had their heart set on winning a state championship again, and they're just a few points off. But what a great showing for our Knowledge Bowl kids. I mentioned our senior banquet last night. We passed out over 120 scholarships. We had over $114,000 that were given out in scholarships, plus a bunch of other awards and recognition of our student athletes. And wanted to compliment Mr. Schwartz, Lori Harms, Cheryl Templin, Beth Rumrell, and the Booster Club. They worked so hard putting that program together for our students last night. Wanted to compliment Ms. Herman, the junior class, and the after prom. We had prom on April 23rd. This year we went up to the Brunswick Zone in Brooklyn Park, and the kids were absolutely phenomenal. They had a great evening there. And every time we go to a place like that, the managers come up, the best compliment they can give me as we're leaving is they compliment the kids and their respect levels and how they treated everyone there. And again, we got all the compliments from their staff at the Brunswick Zone. I mentioned BPA came back this morning. We had 14 students that went to the national conference. We had 5 students who placed in the top 10. Katie Twist, Mark Luters, Jeannie Swigert all got top 10. Ellie Schmidt took 3rd place, and Maddie Keene got 2nd place in her competition. And Mr. Kenny said they had a great trip. Had our spring play at the end of April, and then you can see with the Visual Arts Festival that we had and the students who participated, and our FFA at the state convention. One thing I want to point out there was Ben Dunny took 1st place in the state for his dairy handling, so he will actually get the opportunity to compete in October. And I think it's in Indianapolis this year for the national convention. So that was quite an honor for him to take 1st in the state. Any questions for me?
All right, moving on, Mr. Sanju.
I will try to be brief. I am also excited about the dunk tank cancellation. Because I was a 6:20 appointment on that, and to emphasize the busyness of our world, it's very, very busy, not only from an employee, but when you try to juggle 3 elementary kids on top of the busyness, it's amazing how many places you have to be. Our last community schools meeting is coming up here on May 19th, and we'd invite all the members of the community to come to that. And then we'll talk a little bit about how the setup will go. A special thank you, with Chartwell's being here, a special thank you to them for supporting that community schools lunch that we've been having. It's a great opportunity for our kids and our community to come together, and it's over lunch, and Chartwell's is the reason why that's happening. Obviously, last day of school is on the 20th with graduation, as Mr. Sparby talked about, and then we also have our awards, our staff recognition on May 23rd, the following Monday, which is the last day for staff. In that recognition breakfast, the breakfast starts at 7:30, and then the program will start somewhere around 8:10 or so. And you know, the board is always welcome to serve if you guys can make it for that. We were present at the Cinco de Mayo Festival at the City Center here this last week. It was a great opportunity to be visible and to show support in the community with that. And we had a lot of fun, and thank you to the staff members that helped me out with all that. And then we're also working on many representations with the Glencoe Day Parade here coming up on the 25th of June, which is not all that far away. One of the other things that we're going to be working on here on the 23rd is I'm going to be meeting with our Gifted and Talented Committee. One of the things that one of our initiatives, along with our STEM and some of the things that we've talked about from the World's Best Workforce document, about how we're going to continue to pursue and to challenge kids and to create gifted and talented opportunities for our students, and we're going to be meeting with that to kind of keep going through that, through how that's going to lead throughout the summer, and to see what we can do to implement something into place here for the fall of 2016. The building project, to be quite honest with you, I have a very similar update from a month ago. I know there's a lot of stuff going on. I was at a construction meeting here last week, and we have another one coming up here on Wednesday. They're working. If it wasn't for the weather, I think we would have saw some earth moving here today. That was the schedule from last week. I know things are going to be coming along, like Michelle talked about with the bid packages and that kind of stuff. Lots of coordination that has to happen with things, and so they're making that work. It'll be here. We know that we have to be ready by the end of the fall of 2017, but I know that I speak for many people, and obviously speak especially for myself. I'm just excited to see some stuff happening, you know, when you drive by and that kind of stuff, and I know that that's going to be happening very, very soon. One thing that we're starting to advertise and to get the public to know, the link is coming down here May 24th, 25th, 26th, one of those days that's happening. The link is going to be coming down, and so we've already kind of started to tell the community through emails and the members of the field house that this will be coming, and we'll direct you into that front entrance, and you'll be able to walk into Gym 1, and you shouldn't see any necessary changes, but obviously there's going to be a construction fence that's going to be kind of going on in front of that as well. So that's happening. And then lastly, and I think I talked a little bit about this earlier, but just we're having our second annual celebration day coming here on Friday, and it's just an opportunity for us to go ahead and to celebrate our staff and to celebrate our students and enjoy each other in terms of the accomplishments, because when you really stop to think about all the accomplishments that many of our students have experienced, it's important to make sure that you stop and celebrate that, and we're going to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any board committee reports? Jamie?
We had a Community Education Advisory Council meeting a couple weeks ago, and one of the things that I wanted to mention was that the brochures are now out, so take a look at those. If you haven't taken a look at those in the paper, please do so, or contact the field house or community ed to get a hold of a brochure or the summer booklet. There is a Munsinger garden trip coming up in June that's in the brochure that's had a lot of buzz about it, so that I think is one of many excellent opportunities that are available through community ed. Another thing that community ed is going to be working on in the months ahead will be to develop a framework for kind of guidelines and philosophy of community ed, but also a discussion around competitive sports and kind of what community ed's role is and what their philosophy is, but also where and how do competitive sports and opportunities fall within the realm of community ed. So in the months ahead, community ed is going to be developing, like I said, the framework for guidelines and philosophy, kind of looking at, do you keep kids with a grade level for different activities? Do you have multiple ages on a given team? Process for tryouts and team structures, and just a host of things that need to be talked about. And so that's going to be coming up as meetings continue on. Also, we took a look at the 16-17 community ed budget, and we looked at expenditures and revenues. The expenditures are over revenue at the time, looking at the 16-17 community ed budget. There are some activities that are not breaking even, such as baseball, gymnastics, and soccer in the community ed budget. But one of the things that community ed is also going to be looking at is just an overall reevaluation of fees for next fall. And the fees have not been increased since 2005. So because there hasn't been an increase, and because we have continued to add excellent opportunities for all age groups and different things like that, we're going to be taking a look at those fees, and of course continue to follow the budget and look at the expenditures and revenues to make sure that they are not out of whack. And so that's my report for this time.
Okay, thanks, Jamie. Do we have any other board committee reports? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. We have a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Jamie, need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Ann. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Approved consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Ann, need a second? Seconded by Jason. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carries. There's no old business at this time, so move on to new business. Item A, Level 3 grievance hearing, which is information, discussion. Education Minnesota GSL has filed a grievance, which is now at Level 3. It will be appealed to the entire school board at this time. So, Mrs. Whipple, you can step up to the mic.
Hi, Bria Wigglemo, social studies teacher at the high school. I'm not sure what you all are familiar with my case. As far as that I have, at the beginning of the year, been contracted for an overload for second and third trimesters. But because of my maternity leave, the third trimester overload has been removed. And that's what my grievance is about. Yes, no, are they familiar with? Okay. All right, well then I just have a few points I'd like to make before the board. First, I'd like to discuss the timeline of my actions since the administration is seeking to dismiss my case on such matters of timing. When Mr. Sanju first informed me of my contract for my overload being changed due to my maternity leave, I was a bit surprised that the district could do such a thing. It seemed an obvious break in my current contract. So I pulled out my contract letter of assignment and noticed Statement 5, which states that the district reserves the right to, at any time, amend the contract as they see fit. It states they reserve the right to make any modifications or adjustments in these assignments during the school year. Therefore, I didn't think there was much I could do and did not act immediately. Later, a good family friend and lawyer advised me that while that statement may hold true for various school-related reasons, it could not supersede federal law. Under federal law, the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, PDA, forbids discrimination based on pregnancy when it comes to any other aspect of employment, including pay, job assignments, which is what this falls under, promotions, layoffs, training, fringe benefits, firing, and any other terms or conditions of employment that is directly from the U.S. Equal Opportunity Commission. I have it printed here as well. You can find it on eeoc.gov. Upon realizing this, I spoke with Sandra Anderson, our regional union representative of Education Minnesota. She advised me that I would have no tangible case to grieve until my pay was actually withheld from me due to the broken contract, which would not occur until March 6th, the start of the new trimester. I also had to wait for my March payroll period to see the payroll reduction. After these events is when I filed my grievance, believing it was a fair, timely, and sensible manner to do so in. Because I try to see the best in people, I understand that administration have their job to do in seeking to dismiss grievances as well as maintaining a bottom line. However, I feel it's deeply unethical to dismiss the merits of my case in which the GSL school district is in violation of federal law by disputing the timeline, in which I did my best to uphold protocols. I believe the school board has a higher duty than to only watch bottom lines. You are an electorate chosen by the people to uphold principles of education and uphold an ethical workplace. The Pregnancy Discrimination Act is an act to protect not only working women, but their families and children. As an educational institution, our interests should be the same, doing what is best for children. How can our district as an employer be against such a landmark federal law by blatantly violating it, and as an educational institution, still uphold the moral principle of doing what is best for children? I see this as a matter of principle that you as an electorate must consider. Furthermore, some will try to look at this with pragmatism rather than principle, saying quite simply, Mrs. Wibblemo isn't here to teach the overload. Why should she expect to get paid for something she isn't doing? Let me point out that I believe there is a real pragmatic answer to that question, but my answer is based on the premise that benefits for workers have been enacted for the good of society. I hope we can agree on that. It's a good thing for society when employers grant sick leave. We don't want sick workers spreading illness, nor do we want sick workers to go destitute. Paid maternity leave is what's best for mother and children, for the financial stability of the family, as well as to the longitudinal benefits of our children, which are immeasurable. So then, to go back to the question, why do I expect to get paid for something that I'm not doing? Well, when I received teaching overload during the second trimester, but I was sick one day, I still received my pay overload then. The overload was not addressed as separate then. When other teachers have been gone for the long or short term while teaching the overload, their overload pay is not withheld. Some might say yes, but you are not here teaching any of your overload. Yes, I am not here teaching, but I'm also not here teaching any of my regular load, and I am getting paid for that, so I feel I should also be getting paid for my overload. Furthermore, if a teacher was scheduled to teach a trimester overload, but sustained an unexpected long-term injury at the start of that overload, or was not able to teach any of it, but had been assigned and anticipating to teach it, they would get paid. I feel that simply because my long-term leave was not unexpected in nature, but instead anticipated, that is why my pay has been withheld and my contract is broken. The anticipation of my leave is why I've been discriminated against, and therefore that proves it is indeed a form of pregnancy discrimination and in clear violation of the Pregnancy Discrimination Act. Again, let me remind you that you are an electorate chosen by our communities to uphold principles of education and ethical employment. Similar to the electorate that enacted the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, you've been chosen to do the right thing. I know that I can trust you to do that right thing by upholding this federal law. That's most of what I had to say. I don't know if there was a question and answer period. All right, thank you.
Any comments or discussion on the board's behalf? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item B. District Club trip. District Club Advisor Tom Shopper requests approval to take club members on a trip to New York and Boston for 5 days from June 19th through June 23rd, 2017. Anticipated cost of the trip is $2,197 per student. The tour will be conducted by the same company used by Bria Wiblemo and Terry Ebert for previous summer student trips. Students will cover their individual trip expenses and there will be no cost to the school district for this trip. Superintendent Sanju recommends approval of the request. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Kevin, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Donna to approve the History Club trip to New York and Boston for 5 days from June 19th through June 23rd, 2017. Discussion. Mr. Shopper, do you have anything for us?
Just other than what's in front of you. History Club, we're starting to step it up a little bit, formalize the club a little bit more. Members do have to meet a certain requirements, such as GPA, an essay on why they want to get in, approval by a committee of the club, and initiation. The club we're trying to make it more of an honorary thing. And this trip, with our new officer team this year and stuff, this would be part of that, taking it up a notch. History Club before, we took local trips. We did a lot of the War of 1862 stuff, going to the History Center and other things. But this, this we want to make a little bit bigger deal on. And then the other part of that is fundraising. And I talked to Mr. Sparby about that. We have some ideas that we're going to approach him with later on, before school ends, and then get it going, play in June, with your approval in January. Do you have any questions? It's a small, earnest group, and we have a good time. We have a lot of fun.
How many students do you think will be going?
We need a minimum of 10, and I'm looking at 10 to 15. And this would be East Coast, down the road, we look at West Coast, maybe the South. A lot of history out there to be seen and heard and understood. Any other questions? Excellent.
Thanks for giving the kids the opportunity.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. We've had a motion by Kevin, seconded by Donna. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item C, staffing for Project Lead the Way programming. Action item. Principals Butler and Freitag request approval to hire two 1.0 FTE lead elementary STEM teachers beginning in the 2016-2017 school year. Responsibilities of these teachers will be to provide support for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, otherwise known as STEM instruction, in Project Lead the Way programming at both elementary sites. Superintendent Sanju recommends approval of the two new positions. We have a motion. Motion by Donna, need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Ann to approve hiring two 1.0 lead elementary STEM teachers beginning in the 2016-2017 school year. Discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll have a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, motion carries 4 with Donna, Jason, Clark, and Ann voting yes. Jamie and Kevin voting no.
I would like to point out that in voting no, I'm not voting no on the STEM itself. And I've had calls, I've had phone calls, I've had emails that people think that because I'm not supporting the two FTEs, that I'm not supporting STEM, and nothing could be farther from the truth. So that's why I voted no. It had nothing to do with the STEM itself. So.
And I will echo those comments as well. When we had the discussion back at the workshop session about the world's greatest workforce, one of the things that I encouraged administration to look at was the addition of STEM opportunities at the elementary level. At that time, I made a statement that I was hoping that the administration and the district would take a look at it, a long, hard look at it, and really think it through, plan it out, and take the 2 years leading into the opening of our new facility. I guess I'm a little saddened at the process that took place to lead this proposal to us. I guess as a board member, I'm somewhat saddened at the communication piece. I feel that I wish that I could have heard more on curriculum from the curriculum committee that we have as a district, where we have a board representative or representatives on. I wish that I could have, as a board member, heard more communication from the staff development committee, where we as a district have the board, that staff development committee with a board representative or representatives on. I think that would have been 2 opportunities right there for board members to have been involved in the discussion and communication piece. I think that from the workshop session in the end of November to all of a sudden kind of get to April and have a work session to talk about building, and then to have some information shared at that time about STEM. But that so much had been done as far as site visits and what was found at these site visits, and having the perimeter of the workshop session, and all of a sudden here's all this information at that time. I don't know that I as a board member feel that I was brought along with what was all taking place leading to that time, that April meeting, where this first was then proposed to us, that all of these site visits had taken place, all of this work had been done, and here's a proposal of 2.0 FTEs being added. At that time, I made a rhetorical question statement that I asked, wondering about, could this STEM or the project Lead the Way be delivered with 2.0, 1.5, 1.5, 0 FTEs, 5 FTEs, 10 FTEs, whatever number of FTEs, different delivery models. And I asked it rhetorically because I didn't want to put anybody on the spot. At our last board meeting, I took the rhetorical part off. And I asked the question again, but not rhetorically. And I know that Board Chair Christensen echoed that sentiment, that we were hoping as a board to get some additional information as to what would the delivery model look like different than adding FTEs. I haven't seen anything other than, here's the proposal, 2 FTEs, and it's almost like kind of that this is the only way that it can be delivered. And so like Kevin, I'm very much in support of STEM. I'm not in support of this delivery model where we're adding 2 FTEs. And my last statement is I articulated before at our last board meeting about our fund balance policy, our current enrollment, and as it's declining, and our FTEs that we have. And all you have to do is look back in the budget handbook, and I appreciate Michelle's work in highlighting and showing us some additional numbers and things tonight. But once again, I just don't want to see history repeat itself where our enrollment is declining and our FTEs are increasing. It's a picture of disaster, and I don't want to see that, and I know that as a board none of us do. Previous boards did not want to see it, previous administration did not want to see it, but it happened. There's some things within our control and there's some things out of our control. The funding and stuff coming from the legislature, that's out of our control. Adding of FTEs is within our control, and I just think that we need to in the future be aware of our additions of FTEs and our declining enrollment. Thank you.
Okay, I do compliment Michelle. I very much appreciate the information you provided tonight. I do share a difference of opinion with you, Jamie, respectfully. Board members are invited anytime they want to go to a staff development committee. I believe, Donna, you're on that. Is that right, at the high school? They're more than welcome. We can go to those meetings. I encourage people to go and sit at administrative cabinet meetings. I'm not sure how many board members, Mr. Butler or Mrs. Freitag, talked to you about the delivery model. I would think that would be a reasonable thing as a board member to contact that. Mr. Pika, I appreciate the great work that you've done here in preparation for that. I appreciate Mr. Sundblad. I do believe teachers have been heavily involved in the process. This is a decision that we made tonight that I do believe is going to move us really steps in the right direction in meeting those needs of educating our students for many years and beyond. This gives us great identity as a district, and I do compliment the administration in taking an initiative like this that really is one of the bigger steps that we've had here in the last decade in improving our students. And I thank you very much for the work.
I wasn't at the last workshop meeting because I had surgery, and so because of that, I did have to do a little bit of investigating on my own, I guess, about the STEM program and what you guys talked about. I have talked to Joy separately, and I've talked to Mr. Sundblad separately. I've also done a little bit of investigating online about STEM programs and other schools that have had STEM programs, and so because of that, I did kind of investigate myself. I definitely think it's a good idea. It's a great idea to just, if nothing else, just to engage kids in wanting to learn, to actually getting them more excited about learning, and they're maybe not even aware that they're learning. So I definitely think it's a great idea and a great thing to do. We are, from what I understand, the first 2 years is a grant program, correct? So it's paid for? And
Parts of it are.
parts of it are. Most of, in a large part of it is. And I understand that it is very scary to even think about what could happen if we aren't on top of this. But I have a lot of faith in Michelle. I know she knows what she's doing. I know she will watch it really good. So I just think it's a good idea.
I also just want to thank Michelle for her book of numbers here that showed us that as a district, we can afford to move forward and look towards the future and educate our kids with something that's groundbreaking. I think it's a great program, what I've seen of it, what I've heard from you guys, what I've researched on. I wasn't at the April board meeting to hear the discussion, but I'm just excited for the children of the district, for my kids in the district. These are things that they're all going to benefit from, and I'm glad we're in a position to be able to do it. So there's a lot of schools that can't say that, and I don't want to look back 4 years down the road and say, wish we would have did that. You know, now we have the chance. Let's do it. We'll work about the future in the future. Be okay.
Okay, moving on here to item D, approved request for paraprofessional in the ECFE School Readiness Preschool Program. ECFE Coordinator Alicia Vesti requests approval to hire an additional paraprofessional in the ECFE/School Readiness Preschool Program for the 2016-2017 school year. This is because of an increase in the number of students and classes for next year. Superintendent Sanju recommends approval of the additional position. Do we have a motion?
I so move.
Motion by Ann, do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jason to approve the hiring of an additional paraprofessional in the ECFE School Readiness Preschool Program for the 2016-2017 school year. Discussion. Alicia, can you fill us in a little bit?
So this is a combined position. We've increased our class sizes in ECFE, which is where parents and children come together to classes, and some of those were getting to be quite large, between 12 and 13 children between the ages of 11 months and 5 years, which is quite a broad span, and we just had one staff member in the room with 12 children, ages 0 to 5. So that's pretty intense for that staff member, and we have it in the budget, and I think it's going to be a better experience for the parents and the children in our ECFE classes. The other part of this is a paraprofessional in our school readiness preschool program. We've added a second section of 3-year-olds to the section we currently have, and just this last week we've added a second section in our afternoon. So we've doubled our preschool in the last 2 years since I've been here. I've been really working hard to reach families that maybe haven't been reached in the past, and to spread our marketing more to parents that are online and really promote our program. The state has also given us a lot more money, so that makes it easier to get more kids into preschool at all income levels and socioeconomic backgrounds. So I think this is really going to be, bottom line, a great thing for our children and the parents in our program. Do you have any questions?
Is there a state guideline or number where you have to have a second teacher? Is it 10 or is it 11? I know daycare is.
For school readiness preschool, the ratios are 10 to 1, max class sizes of 20. ECFE, technically not, because the parents are there. There's just, if you've been down to our wing, there's a separate room with 2-way mirrors and stuff, but since the parents are right through the door. But an important part of ECFE is that parent education piece. And if the door is open and the kids are going back and forth, it's very hard for the parents to focus and have a discussion and work on those parenting topics. So having another adult in the room with the kids for that time will really be helpful for the parents.
So how often, or how many days a week is that?
The school readiness portion of the position would be Tuesday and Friday mornings, and it would be from their hours would be 8 to 11:30. The ECFE portion, ECFE is just based on registration, but we've generally had about 3 10-week ECFE classes go, so that one we're looking at Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings, and that would be 8:30 to 11, so just.
So then are you only gonna need the person with ECFE only if there is more than 10 kids in the, are you talking about like the PAC classes?
The parent-child classes.
Parent-child classes?
Yep.
But that's why I question it, because I mean, I, all my kids went through that, and the parents are there, so explain to me why, I guess you need more help there.
Like I said, ECFE, the class structure is kind of, it's set where the first half of the time is everyone's in the room together, and then the parents and kids split off in separate time. And like I said, some of the classes we're getting to have quite a few children in the child time when the parents would leave. And in the past ways we've handled it is that a parent will stay in the room so they miss out on the parent time. And if we can avoid doing that, we have money in the budget. I did some observation at the Hutchinson ECFE program, and they have an abundance of staff members because they run a child care portion also. So in a family, if there are older children coming along, then they can go into sibling care. So there are 2 paraprofessionals there. And then within the classroom, the coordinator was there, the early childhood teacher was there, the parent educator was there, and then they also had a paraprofessional in the room. And those classes were very similar in size to our classes. And so where we had 2 adults, just the early childhood teacher and the parent educator, who was also me, in the room versus having 6 staff members, there's just so much more you can do as far as prep beforehand and during the class. Separation is a key part of what we're teaching during parent-child time. So when the parents go off, that the kids learn how to separate from them, and that's really hard to do when there's only 1 teacher for 12 kids, because then if a toddler, let's just say, is having a hard time separating, if the staff member is attending to them and trying to make it a good experience so that the parent can leave for a portion of time, then the other kids need supervision and help. And I saw how it works so much better when you have 2 adults in the room with the kids. Safety is another concern, just because 1 adult and 12 children, you can't be everywhere at once. And so yes, the parents are present, but if they're in a different room, you're not gonna, I don't know, I feel like I really wanna cover all our bases as far as health and safety and having a good experience for the children and the families.
I just wanted to say that my experiences in ECFE, although my family experiences are a long time ago, that those interactions that we had with a parent educator and in a group of parents who are our peers were some of the best that we ever had. And that this proposal of yours to give parents that chance to have a discussion with our other adults about their child's development is a wonderful thing, and I'm glad for how popular you have made the program in ECFE this year, so that your classes are overflowing, and it makes a great deal of sense to add staff at this time and go forward with this. This is a fantastic thing. So thanks for your hard work and getting your program as busy as it is. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion, questions for Alicia?
Did you state that this was going to be 14 and a half hours?
Yep.
Okay, we've had a motion and it's been seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for your attendance. Item 8, 2015-2016 budget revisions, discussion action item. Business Manager Sander recommends approval of the following budget revisions for Fund 4 for approval. Fund 4, so as you see the revenue there, I'm not going to read out every dollar amount in expenditures. So basically it's going to be an increase of $5,000 on the expenditure side, and an increase on the revenue, or excuse me, that was on the, I better have you guys just read that. I'm under pressure. Didn't succeed very well in my math. We have a motion.
So moved.
We have a second. I'll second it. To approve the 2015-2016 budget revisions for Fund 4 as presented above. Discussion.
These were just a few changes that came in. Fund 4 is community service. So we had a few changes that came from the community ed side and from the school readiness ECFE side. So just avoid duck hunting. And, so just a few revisions that they just did get to me in time for the April board meeting when we did the rest of the board revisions. Sorry, Kevin, your duck threw me off and I'm trying to write at the same time.
I was expecting geese.
Okay, we got a motion. It's been seconded. We're not going to do a duck call roll vote, but that's about it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item F, summer school plans. Administration has been making plans for the district summer school program. The summer school plan includes the following programs: enrichment opportunities through community education, targeted services, where the school district will provide a targeted services program for select students who qualify for such services. Elementary targeted services will provide whole group and small group instruction in literacy and mathematics. Elementary targeted services will run Monday through Thursday from June 6 through July 14 for 3.5 hours in the morning. Required staffing at the elementary level is to provide instruction that is anticipated to be 1 program lead, 4 teachers, and 3 paraprofessionals for a projected enrollment of 100 students. The junior high targeted services program will run from June 13th through June 24th and July 11th through July 22nd at the junior high for 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday. The high school credit recovery program will run from June 13th through June 30th and July 11th through August 4th for 3 hours a day, Monday through Thursday. Required staffing for the junior high program is 2 certified teachers per day. Required staffing for the high school program is 1 licensed teacher per day. Funding for targeted services is through the State Targeted Services Fund. The school district has a need to provide a limited extended school year program for select students whose IEPs indicate such services. ESY serves students who demonstrate regression and a limited ability to maintain basic academic and functional skills during planned school breaks. Estimated expenses to conduct a program are $6,000. The duration of the program will be 3 weeks beginning July 11 through July 16, or July 11 through 2016, including July 28, 2016. Sessions will be held Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. This year's program will serve 27 students. Required staffing is anticipated to be 5 teachers, 9 paraprofessionals, and 1 LPN. The superintendent recommends that the school board authorize this limited ESY program. Migrant Summer School. This will consist of an elementary lead, secondary lead, 5 teachers, a physical education teacher, RTI intervention coordinator, 1 data entry clerk/secretary, 1 family involvement liaison, and 7 paraprofessionals. June 6th through July 14. School will not be in session on Fridays or on July 4th. Superintendent Sanju recommends approval of the summer school program as presented above. We have a motion.
Through federal dollars, it's you have to apply for the migrant summer school dollars, but they get a really large budget to make that program work. So that money all comes through back to us after we submit our expenditure. So that is through a federal grant. It is a lot of work to get those federal dollars and a lot of paperwork to follow through, but so there is no net cost to the district. That is all federally funded. The extended school year program, we are paying those staff, but it goes through our special ed program, so there's additional state funding that comes through that. And then as Clark read, the targeted services is covered through targeted services fund, so there's no net cost to the district. Those programs are pretty much funded. Yep, and also the summer food program, it's the same dates that run with these programs for the summer food when those kids are in the programs.
Okay, we have a motion and it's been seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item G, approve contracts. Board negotiators Al Slavin and Keister recommend approval of 2-year contracts with LPNs Michelle Woods and Luz Duvall from July 1, 2016 through June 30, 2018. Superintendent Sanju also recommends approval of the contracts. We have a motion. Motion by Jamie, need a second? Seconded by Ann to approve the contracts with LPNs Michelle Woods and Luz Duvall from July 1, 2016 through June 30, 2018. Discussion? Jamie and Kevin, how much are we looking at here as an increase? 3% each year? Okay, thanks, Chris. Okay. Okay, thank you. Had a motion that's been seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item H, Minnesota State High School League membership. Annually, the school board must act to renew its membership in the Minnesota State High School League. The board is required to view the Why We Play training video and code of conduct statement. The signatures of the superintendent and clerk of the school board affirm such compliance. It is a recommendation of the superintendent that the Minnesota State High School League membership be approved for the 2016-2017 school year. We have a motion. Motion by Jason, need a second. Seconded by Ann to approve membership in the Minnesota State High School League for the 2016-2017 school year. Discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item I, approve changes to employee job descriptions, ratings, and titles. Job descriptions were reviewed by the school district's administrators over the last few months, and they have determined some job ratings and titles are no longer accurate. Job descriptions have been added for new positions and revised for some current positions. Job ratings and titles have been revised. Superintendent Sanju recommends the board approve the new and updated job descriptions and changes to ratings and titles as presented. We have a motion. Motion by Ann, need a second? Seconded by Jason to adopt the new and updated job descriptions and changes to job ratings and titles as presented. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item J, approve of bid package number 1, scope 5.B. At the March 31st board meeting, the board reapproved rebidding bid package number 1, scope 5B, which is the structural steel package for the gymnasium materials only. Superintendent Sanju and Business Manager Sander recommend awarding the bid to Donler Construction for $179,975. We have a motion. Motion by Jason, need a second. Seconded by Kevin to approve the bid of Donlar Construction for bid package number 1, work scope 5.B for $179,975. Discussion.
Just FYI, it was the only bid that came in. Apparently, nobody wants to bid steel. And they had even talked to a couple of contractors that said they had to go in a bid and didn't come through with a bid. So it was the only bid, but it was also way under what was their estimated budget. So that was a good thing.
That's good.
And, you know, if you're questioning Donler, even though there are they're a construction manager, they are also allowed to bid because they're also a construction firm. So there's no conflict, just so you're aware that they can. And in the other scopes, they did bid for certain parts of that, but they weren't the low bidders. So that is allowable, just in case you're questioning that. Yep.
But in this case, it was really nice because we got somebody to bid.
Okay, we have a motion by Jason, seconded by Kevin. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item K, initiate fall school board election. It is necessary for the school board to adopt a resolution to initiate the fall school board election. The school district will hold its general election on November 8th to elect 3 school board members for terms of 4 years. The board members whose terms are expiring are Jamie Alslaven, Kevin Keister, and Donna Von Berg. The candidate filing period for the general election begins on August 2nd and ends on August 16th, 2016. We have a motion. I'll make the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jason to adopt the resolution relating to the election of school board members and calling the school district general election on November 8th. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item L, resolution to accept donations. This is a resolution or recommendation of the superintendent Sanju to adopt the resolution to accept donations. We have a motion. Motion by Jason, seconded by Ann to adopt the resolution to accept donations. Discussion.
Quite a list, nice group of individuals. Thank you, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion that's been seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item M, miscellaneous. Is there any miscellaneous at this time? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn? Okay, do we have a second to Ann's motion to adjourn?
Second.
Seconded by Jason to adjourn at 8:56 p.m. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.